gorgeous out. Let's pop some ducks.
This is the Upduck Podcast, a blend of upland and waterfowl hunting. Tune in as your hosts, Tyler Beaton, Jeff Ludicky, Matt Jeske, chat about training dogs and share their bird hunting stories, tactics, and strategies.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Upduck Podcast. Just Tyler here again this week. No Matt, he's on vacation. But you don't have to listen to me banter by myself because I have an awesome guest that I am really excited to talk to today. His name is Robby Nelson. He is the host of the Southern Flight Podcast. Robby, welcome to the Upduck Podcast.
Thanks, man. Thanks for reaching out and having me on here. I don't know. I think you told me most of your guests are from like the Midwest, so they're probably not used to this accent.
That's okay. You know what? I could listen to an accent talk for a long time. So at least I'll be entertained. Guaranteed.
I hear you. Well, there's no short of entertainment with me. But aside from that, I can't promise anything else. But
okay. Well, let's get to the entertainment then. Okay. I want to start with, hey, you are a diehard duck hunter, right? We talked a little bit offline. You travel around a bit, or not a lot to duck hunt. However, I want to go back to the beginning. Did you grow up duck hunting? Did you grow up hunting? Who introduced you?
I did not at all. So nobody in my family hunted anything, deer, ducks, nothing. So it's sort of a weird deal that I got into how I got in. So let me start here. So I had a stepfather that introduced me into deer hunting, and he was, I'll use the term deer hunter very loosely. I mean, he would go sit, but he would, like, looking back on it, he was more so just trying to get me outside, you know? And so we used to go hunt public ground a little bit, stomp around on that when I was, 10 or 12 years old. Anyway, I shot my first deer on a WMA wildlife management area down here at about 12 years old. And speed the story along, he didn't duck hunt or anything like that. But I wound up having this guy that had it was crazy. He only had like 10 acres of land. He had like 10 acres that was right down the street from my house. And this gentleman, I went and knocked on his door. I mean, I was like bicycle driving age, right? Like I wasn't like car age. I was bicycle driving age. And I'm 38 now. So you probably go to jail for letting your kid do this nowadays. But I went down there, knocked on the guy's door, and asked him, could I hunt? And asked him, could I deer hunt? And he's like, well, where do you live? Who's your dad? I mean, think about it. As a grown man, you got this little like 14 or 15-year-old kid showing up with, he's got like a 20 gauge tied to his back, which is what I had tied to his back. He's like, hey man, can I go shoot deer in your backyard? It's amazing the guy let me do it, but he did. He wound up letting me go, and we had a great relationship with him. And I was going back there deer hunting is how this started. And then there was a little creek that ran on the backside of his property there. Well, the creek had a little beaver dam, and there was a little swamp there. I'm in the South, so wood ducks are the prevalent duck down here. And I was noticing that some sort of ducks were fly in there and just make all this racket, and they were really fast, and they'd hit the water. And I just got like kind of enamored with what they were. So one morning I went and sat down on the side of the swamp there and watched the birds come in. I had no gun. I had no waders, no anything. I was just like, what are these things? So I went down there and watched them, and they flew in. Of course, they were wood ducks. I had one land like 10 feet away from me. It was a drake. You see all the beautiful colors that a wood duck has and all, man. And it was just like something about that moment struck a nerve with me. And I'm like, I don't know what that thing is, but I got to have one of them. And I'm hoping the statute of limitations on this has been long gone. I'm 38 now, so this was probably when I was 14 years old, long time ago. I have no idea. I know it was wintertime, but aside from that, I couldn't tell you much anything else. But I went down there the next day with my 20 gauge shotgun, and I got me one of those deals. And that was a Drake wood duck was my first duck. And from that point on, I was kind of hooked. So I did not grow up in that hunting culture at all. I was fortunate enough to have a stepdad that got me outdoors at least and got me into hunting. That kind of led me over to the duck side of things through the story I just told you. And then from there, it was like every waking moment I was trying to figure out like how to waterfowl hunt, right? So like the first 5 years of quote unquote of my waterfowl career, if you want to call it that, I was that kid that everybody's like, look at this idiot. You know, I was that. I mean, I was that. I didn't know any better. I didn't have any kind of upbringing with it. Nobody to tell me what I was doing wrong. I mean, I didn't know, and so I was that guy. And so I try to, now that I'm older, when I see young guys doing stupid things, I try to. Sometimes I have a hard time, but I try to remind myself, hey, you were that stupid kid too at some point. And so I try to like always humble myself with that as much as I can. But basically that's how I got started. And then from there, we were hunting wood ducks. We have a local resident population of Canadas, big Canadas that live down here. And so we got into where we were shooting those a little bit here and there. And then a buddy of mine said, hey, let's go on a duck hunting trip. And we went to the coastal North Carolina up there, and we hunted. We didn't even hunt sea ducks. I think we shot a handful of widgeon, some green wing teal, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't really remember what all we shot, but it was a decent, okay hunt. We shot a handful of ducks, and that lit the travel bug in me, because then I'm like, okay, well, there's more ducks when you leave this area than I'm at, and they look different than wood ducks. So now let's go start doing that. And then fast forward all these years later, man, I've hunted, I've shot ducks while standing in the Atlantic Ocean. I've shot ducks while standing in the Pacific Ocean. I've hunted from Alaska to Canada to almost 30 states in the U.S. to the cartel country down in Sinaloa, Mexico. I've been to Argentina. I just got back from New Zealand. I've done a lot of waterfowl hunting since then, so much so that I have tailored my lifestyle around it. I literally quit my job and started a business so I would have more time to hunt. I don't always make the right decisions when it comes to that. And you can just ask my wife, and she will also agree with me when I tell you that. But man, I literally got eaten up with it from that young age when I saw that first wood duck, and it's just gone and gone and gone from there. And I'll tell you this one thing before we move on. I was about 25 years old, and my wife and I were about to get married. I've been with my wife for almost 20 years. We've only we'll be married 13 years this year, but I was I was working at a chemical plant at the time, and I was sitting in the control room, and we were on night shift. And this guy, I was texting my buddy wanting to go duck hunting the next morning. And he goes, you're about to get married and have kids and all that. He goes, that duck hunting stuff's about to go out the window. And I remember getting infuriated that he said that. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not going to quit hunting. I'm not going to change. Like, maybe you did, but that's not me, guy, And it wasn't that much longer. Through some life events, I wound up leaving that job and going to somewhere else. And ultimately, I had in the back of my mind since that day that I wanted to work for myself. So nobody could ever tell me I couldn't go duck hunting or couldn't go deer hunting, or, hey, a cold front's coming in. I think it's going to be a migration day. We need to go. Hey, my buddy in Louisiana called and says the ducks are there. We need to go. When you work for somebody else and you get 2 or 3 weeks vacation, you got a week with the wife at the beach during the summer, and then you got another week you got to go to the mountains in the winter. So that leaves you like a week in the middle. And I'm like, yeah, that just ain't going to cut it, brother. So anyway, I know that was a long-winded story, but that's kind of where I'm at.
That there's so much there. I could pull apart that whole story, and we could make this whole thing an hour. Couple of things. First, you are in Georgia, correct? I don't know if I actually asked you where you're at.
That is correct. Your listeners may have heard of the Masters Golf Tournament, which is in Augusta, Georgia. I'm where I'm sitting right now, I'm about 30 minutes away from that golf course. So okay. I live about 30 minutes west of Augusta is where I live.
Okay. I didn't know Augusta had wood ducks. That's great. That's amazing.
It does. Well, I mean, obviously right in the middle of town there, it doesn't, but I live in the country. So when you get outside of Augusta, it doesn't take long and it turns into country. I live on 20 acres here. My neighbor back behind me's got 120. And I guarantee you right now, we could walk back there and there's wood ducks all over the swamp back there right now. Cause we have a lot of them that just stay here year round. And we hunt his swamp down there. We don't pressure it too much. I about feel sorry for wood ducks now. Not that I feel like I'm too good to hunt them. It's actually the exact opposite. I think they're such a beautiful bird. and they just get so pressured down here, man, because it's just the only thing that we have. So every little 3-foot wide creek has got, some redneck standing behind it looking like Elmer Fudd every 300 yards. And so I rarely, most of the time, the woodies now get a pass from me. And it's just because I'm like, man, yeah, if I don't kill that one, maybe he'll go breed and make some more, Not saying I won't shoot them, but we'll go hunt them back there maybe once or twice a season. And other than that, we just leave them alone.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of your evolution as a hunter though, too, right? You went from, hey, I'm enamored by this wood duck to now I appreciate and respect it so much that I just want to see them, right? I want to see them continue to prosper.
And that's a fact, man, because I feel like, they have their quote unquote counts they do on the wood ducks and all, but I don't know what your wood duck situation or population is up there, but wood ducks get in the craziest little spots, and getting an accurate count on them, I think, is impossible. I mean, I know they do the best that they can, but where these wood ducks live, I mean, if you've got an open hole, 30 by 30, and there's like a tiny little junky little spot over there that looks like it's full of bushes, but it's got flooded water in it, the wood duck's going to go land in that. And so I don't really understand how they get a count on them, but I remember growing up as a kid, it did not seem like, at least once I started duck hunting, it did not seem like there was as much pressure on them as there is now. And literally now, any little creek anywhere that's got a beaver swamp on it is either A, leased up by somebody, or B, somebody's kids or grandkids hunts it, or cousin's brother, or somebody hunts it. And it's like, you can walk outside of my house right here, and I'm not in a huge ducky area where I'm at, but you can walk outside of my house right here on a Saturday morning, and I mean, you'll just hear the 15 minutes of glory that everybody shoots their wood ducks in the morning, just shots from every direction. And I'm just thinking to myself, these poor wood ducks, they don't have a place to sit anywhere. So I don't, again, man, when I'm hunting elsewhere and they come in, most of the time, if somebody shoots one, it's not me. I let them go. And I mean, I'm still enamored with them. They're still a beautiful bird, but I just don't feel the need to kill all of them. So,
yeah, you've done so much hunting though. I didn't realize how extensive your travels were until you started to tell me here. And even like New Zealand, like I would love to do a whole podcast and you breaking that down. I think it's really interesting to me to always see how hunters change right over the course of time as you kill more birds, right? If you're a deer hunter, if you kill more bucks, or how life changes things for you, right? Why don't you plug your business? What is the name of your business?
I've got 2 actual businesses that are not the podcast. I have a sign business here locally, so I know most of your guys, that's not really going to do a whole lot for them, but it's Nelson Signs. My last name, I've had that for 9 years now. So that's been great. I also have an EVA boat foam decking business. Everybody knows what C-Deck is, and that's spot tail custom decking. So my sign business side is more commercial. I deal more with commercial clients on that. And then the EVA boat foam is obviously a retail portion of it to kind of give me a little bit of diversity there in my business. And, so I don't have too many eggs in one basket.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I wanted you to mention the name, right?
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
I think the thing that's really interesting to me that I want to pick your brain about, right? Because I'm in the Midwest, right? The North, right? You're in the South. Like, have you hunted up as far north as Wisconsin? Have you been up to Minnesota and hunted? Outside of Canada, right? Have you hunted in this, we'll say, latitudinal?
I've hunted North Dakota, but I haven't.
Okay.
And I've hunted the East Coast quite a bit actually. But that between the East Coast and North Dakota, that if you just drew a line between the Atlantic Ocean and North Dakota at that latitude, I haven't really hunted that much up there. I have places up there I want to go. Most of the places I've been, like most of all the states in the Pacific Flyway I've hunted. And then a lot of states in the Midwest I've hunted. But like when you start getting up to that northern tier of the United States up there, I haven't done that. I keep saying I'm going to come up to Minnesota at some point and go do the whole Fergus Falls thing and go try to shoot some of the geese over there just to say I've been there and done that. And eventually I want to shoot one, or go hunt in all the states. I mean, that's my ultimate goal. I love to travel, man. Like the traveling and hunting different areas, seeing different cultures, seeing different decoy spreads, different strategies, different ways that birds react in different situations is really what drives me now. So like, I don't have to go do the same thing every time. Matter of fact, I would prefer not to. I like to go see different stuff. And so that, to me, that is the beauty, the absolute beauty of waterfowl hunting, because let's just take a mallard duck, for example. I mean, we kill a handful down here. Most of them are, inundated with these game farm bird genetics that the East Coast is really getting hammered with. But you can take, like down here, you might shoot birds in a little beaver swamp, per se. I don't know how you guys hunt them up there, but you go out west, you may shoot them in a dry cornfield. Obviously, you can shoot them in flooded ag fields. I've shot them in a creek big enough I can, step across with knee boots. I've shot them in mountain streams. I mean, just mountain lakes. I've shot them in all, even on the coast. So like, seeing how that bird can adapt to his situation, no matter where he's at, is amazing to me. And that is one of the big things that draws me to traveling. Honestly, it really is. And I'm a travel junkie anyway. I love seeing new stuff. I love seeing new places. So it's like, I'm always thinking that next swamp, that next river, that next field, whatever it is, might be the best thing I've ever seen, And so it's just the wondering what's it going to be like. That feeling that's what drives me now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think, as some more of an adult onset duck hunter will say, right? I did a little bit growing up, but not the quote unquote proper way.
Right.
Seeing the way birds react, right, in different situations, seeing the strategies. And I've traveled very, very little, 1% compared to all the places you've traveled. It is really interesting. It is fascinating. And you can learn so much. For my listeners here in the Midwest, what is it like hunting in the South though? Like, what is that actually like? What do the birds do? How does it differ from where you've been when you've been a little bit further north?
So let me preface this by, the South is a pretty big area, and it's also, the hunting can vary greatly in the South. So what I would consider the South is anywhere from like Louisiana east. Like once you start getting to Texas, I know they're South, but we don't really, they're South, but they're Texas. They're not in the,
they're like, it's like their own country. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's by Georgia standards anyway. So I told you before the podcast, and this holds true. So the Atlantic Flyway, if you look at it, is the weakest flyway of the four. And then if you come down to Georgia, that's about where the armpit is right in there. So our hunting's pretty terrible here in the grand scheme of things. If you go a little bit further south, you get down into Florida. There's a lot of actually some pretty good hunting down there in Florida, believe it or not. And a lot of these birds, because Georgia just doesn't have a ton of habitat. So we have a few river systems that are highlights, and off of those river systems, there'll be, little highlights here and there up and down that river system. But as a whole, it's hard. Ducks don't really like pine trees, and so that we've got a lot of that going on. So our deer hunting is great. And I understand this isn't a deer hunting podcast, but they're not big like you guys deer, but number wise are crazy. And we're allowed 12 deer a year. And as a non-resident, as a non-resident, you could just buy a Georgia tag, right over the counter, come down, and you can shoot 12 deer. So like, our deer population is out of this world. The racks are getting bigger, but the bodies are nowhere near like up there. But anyway, back to duck hunting. So our duck hunting is pretty pitiful here. If you kind of ease over east and get like into South Carolina, there's a place down on the coast in South Carolina called the Ace Basin, which is a very famous known historical waterfowl area. And there's some really good duck hunting to be had over there. However, it's 95% private. So it's a lot of old plantations, old money, like old rice plantations that, rich duck clubs people have to buy into. And some of these guys are paying, some of them are paying, $80, $100, $150,000 on a buy-in, and then having to pay, $10,000 or $15,000 a year beyond that to keep up their membership. Some of them are less than that, but there's a lot of clubs over there that are like that. So these guys are spending that kind of money to shoot ringnecks and, a handful of teal, and they may get their occasional off pintail, off widgeon, stuff like that. But the South, I feel like we have some of the most hardcore duck hunters in the country, as far as like we're willing to travel, we're willing to go. I mean, we're a bunch of rednecks down here. We love to shoot stuff. So you've got all of us down here that are hardcore about it, but we don't have the birds. So like if you go east, you'll get them. North Carolina's got some highlights, especially along the coast. That coastal North Carolina, there's some really good hunting to be had around there. Again, a lot of that's private ground. There is some public ground up there you can do, but and then if you start moving west of here, once you get into Mississippi, there's some pretty good duck hunting. And then over in Louisiana, even though the guys get online and complain about no ducks come to Louisiana anymore, they're full of crap. There's plenty of ducks that go over there. That might not be the mallards that they want, but there's a lot of ducks there. So, I mean, the short answer after I just gave you the long answer is that it varies. It varies greatly. Like if you came and you spent a season down here where I live, you would be like, why do you even own any duck hunting gear? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't understand. Like, why is this a thing that you do? But you can go 3 hours east or 6 hours west, still be in the South and have some pretty decent hunting. Tennessee, Tennessee's a bright spot. So like Western Tennessee has actually a lot of good private ground, and they also have some good public ground over there too. But anyway, that just thought came into my head.
No, that was a great answer, right? And it's like anything else, it varies. But I think that perspective on things, I love the fact that you mentioned, hey, we're rednecks, we like to shoot stuff. We have diehard waterfowlers, but not always the right habitat and then the birds to follow that actually.
100%. Yeah. I would say your average duck hunter here, 95% of people going out on a Saturdays, if they kill, 2 wood ducks, they're happy. Our limit is 3 wood ducks down here. And so you can kill 3 a day. And I'd say that's what the vast majority of people that are going hunting down here are shooting wood ducks, and then those hooded mergansers are getting those wood duck swamps, and people will shoot them. I give the hoodies a pass now. They're a beautiful bird, but I'm not going to eat them. So it's like, I don't need to shoot them either, but they are a beautiful bird. And I hate when people talk bad about them. All of them hoodies are trash. Man, they're beautiful birds, but I'm not going to eat them. I'm not going to do anything with them. So they get a pass from me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, the other thing too, right? You meant as far as like giving birds a pass, right? These people that own, right, the old money, right? These plantations, and they pay into these duck clubs to shoot ringnecks and I mean, don't get me wrong. I shot a bunch of ringnecks, or I shouldn't say but we shot a bunch of ringnecks down in Oklahoma last year, and they're a fun bird to shoot.
Oh, one of my favorites. But I'm not going to pay $150,000 to do it, but I mean, they're one of my favorites to shoot. Yeah.
Correct. And it was, I don't think any of us had actually killed a ringneck before, right? There's just not a ton of ringnecks in Wisconsin. As far as like cleaning those birds, that took 3 times as long because they're so greasy. And then we're like, okay, we're going to put this into the sausage pile and have goose sticks made.
Right. Depending on the vegetation that they're eating, they're not bad. I've killed my fair share of ringnecks over the years, and they're not bad. A little quick tidbit on the way I like to clean them. A lot of people sit there and they want to pull all the feathers off and all that. I'll literally just take one pinch, pull him off right at the top of his breastbone right there to expose the breastbone. Then I'll take that knife and slice in through, and then I'll fillet the breast off of the skin from inside out. And I bet I can have 6 ringnecks clean before somebody picking them like that can have 2 done. So that's the way I like to clean pretty much any diver. Besides an old redhead, he'll pull apart on you real nice and easy. To be a big bird, that skin just comes right apart. But those ringnecks are tough, brother. They are tough to clean. But a sporty bird, man, if you shot them in Oklahoma, how fast those things are, they're like little fighter jets. I love when you're sitting there and they come like from behind you over your head, and you hear that, and you're like, all right, I know they're somewhere. You're looking around. Yeah. So anyway, they're fun birds.
It was a blast. It was a great hunt. They decoyed like they decoyed well. I mean, it was just, lots of action. And like you said, they are so fast. So fast.
Right.
Yeah, they were a ton of fun to shoot. Ton of fun. So I want to transition to this, right? We talk like this is the part that like how do we get to this point where we're actually talking, right? So
Right.
that I think this is the origin of why Robby's here. Is he had a post on social media, right? And I saw that post and I commented on it and said, oh, hey, we could do an entire podcast on this. And it would you had a line about, hey, how you see folks coming online and bashing Ducks Unlimited and other conservation orgs all the time, right? And you said, hey, I just don't understand why there's so much criticism. And that resonated with me because I see the same thing a lot. And this really goes in, some of this can lead into waterfowl culture discussion and all that stuff. But where, like for you, where did that opinion form from?
So the South, there's this big movement, and y'all might not hear about it as much up there, but in the South, there's this big movement to ban flooded corn. I mean, have you heard this discussion?
Oh,
so
yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how far this has made it up. And I'm not picking on these guys. Right. I literally had these guys on my podcast, the founder of this on my podcast to give their opinion. But the Flyway Federation down in Louisiana started this push to ban flooded corn. That is like their sole mission. They want to ban flooded corn. And a lot of the guys that are on their side, let me just say that. I'm not going to say people that work there or I don't even think nobody works there. It's just like a group of people that want to ban this stuff. And so they're pushing. They've gotten a Southern senator involved and he brought up some legislation trying to get the feds to do studies on it. And also they're making some movements on it. And one thing that all those guys seem to have in common is they hate conservation organizations. And I don't understand it. They hate DU, they hate Delta, and you can go on that post. I got drugged through the mud. I don't know if you read any of the comments on there, but on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all three, I got drugged through the mud for that 30-second snippet. And mind you, that podcast has not even dropped yet. That podcast will be out next this coming Sunday night. I'll put it out for next week. So the whole people haven't even heard the whole context. Now, I got called. Let's see. I got told I voted for Kamala Harris. I got told that I was triple vaccinated. I got told that I was a clown. What else did I get told? I had told all this stuff just because of that comment on there. And I don't understand it. Now, my opinion. So let me say this. I've got a good friend of mine that has a paid position for Ducks Unlimited. Okay. He's the regional director for Ducks Unlimited out in Utah. And I go out there and I hunt with him quite a bit. And I've talked to him personally. I've been on Ducks Unlimited projects that they've done out there that they have personally spent, Ducks Unlimited spent this money, this project, this would not be here without Ducks Unlimited. And that's just one place. So a lot of these guys in the South have this belief that Ducks Unlimited cares about two things: private duck clubs and the prairie pothole region. And that's it. They don't care about anything else. Well, a simple Google search, your phone is such an incredible tool. I mean, you can make yourself not look like an idiot in 2 seconds if you'll just do a search, but you can search like Ducks Unlimited projects and name your state and it will pop up. So I posted a thing back on there about the guys from Louisiana were commenting, and I posted a thing back on there. Well, they don't do anything south of Missouri. I got that comment. And so I literally Google like Ducks Unlimited project south of Missouri, and the map just like lights up. I mean, all the way down to Louisiana. So it's just they have no basis for these arguments. They're just spewing nonsense. That they're literally spewing nonsense. And I feel like these guys are looking for a smoking gun. Okay. So what I think it is we've got, and I know this is going beyond the question, but I think it's relevant. So I'd like to talk about it if you're okay with it. But
yeah, go for it, please.
So I think, and guys, I'm not a biologist. Obviously, I told you what I did for a living, but I've done a lot of traveling, a lot of looking around, and talked to a lot of old timers and everything. And I try to look at everything with a little bit of common sense. And we've had some really dry years in the prairies. I hunt up there every year. It's been drier and drier and drier for the last 7 years. I think this year they're finally getting some rain, but it's really been dry. Then you've got like the Mississippi River Valley has lost 80%, over 80% of its wetlands up and down the Mississippi River Valley. So you start talking about all the habitat loss, you start talking about changing normal farming practices. How many fields north to south now are in agriculture that weren't 50 years ago? Farming's changed so much. So now we've got, you've got off years with precipitation, which is hurting your duck breeding populations. You've got all this habitat loss up and down the flyway. Whether people like to admit it or not, we're having warmer winters. It's like death by 1,000 cuts for waterfowl hunters in the South, but so they need a smoking gun. So like, what's the one thing we can control? Well, with a stroke of a pen, we can stop this flooded corn, and Ducks Unlimited, is helping people plant this flooded corn and yada, yada, yada. And that's where all these opinions are kind of coming from. And if anybody cares to look up my page, Southern Flight Podcast, on Facebook or Instagram, either one, scroll back and find that post, and there's 200 plus comments on each one. And it's nonstop. And so I really feel like guys are aggravated because we don't have the birds in the South that we used to have. And somebody needs to be the enemy. And so I feel like Ducks Unlimited, well, we've spent all this money for them and the ducks are still down. Why are they down? Well, guys, conservation organizations, they can only do so much, right? My question is what have you done? What have you conserved? How many ducks have you saved? How many wetlands have you saved? And I don't know, man, I could go on about that for hours, but it's just, it drives me nuts.
Yeah. I think, I don't think you're wrong, right? We want to cast blame, right? And I think as hunters, it's really easy to, right, just looking inward at yourself. Where am I hunting? How, what is the bird trend, right? Is it down? Yes, it's down, right? And, right, who can I blame? Where's the smoking gun? And you hear about all the habitat restoration work, all the things that DU does, or any of the other organizations, right? Any of them. I mean, we've had Pheasants Forever on a couple of times because they have wetland biologists in the state of Wisconsin, right? To restore habitat. They do easements on private land to help with habitat. Like, so there's more habitat for ducks, because more ducks is good all around for everybody. If there's more ducks, we get more opportunities to shoot ducks.
And see the private land, let me just say this, the private land is what most of these guys have problems with. Well, DU's not spending money on all the public ground. They're going to private ground. And so that's one of their problems. But anyway, go ahead. Yep.
And but you can find plenty of instances where that's actually not the case, right? At least in Wisconsin. I'll speak to Wisconsin, right? We're really, this podcast, we're close with the Wisconsin Waterfowl Association. They're a really small organization that does a lot of really good work. And they partner with DU, they partner with Delta, they partner with Pheasants Forever to gain funds for some of these grants and some of this work that they're doing. And that's on public land too. So like, it's there, you just got to look harder. But if it's not directly affecting you, right, I used the old ChatGPT machine and looked at, hey, how much did DU spend on habitat restoration? What was their spend for 2025? $308 million. It's a big number.
Who else is doing that? That's a private organization. That
correct. Yeah. But if you're still not seeing, if you're like, hey, I'm still not seeing more ducks, so like, what are you actually spending it on? Right? There's the smoking gun. And this is not, I want to be careful and say, hey, it's not like we can't criticize these conservation organizations, right? Like we could say, hey, I would prefer that you spend the money here versus there, or whatever it actually is. But I personally don't want to paint them as the villain, right? They're not the smoking gun here.
They're not. They're not. And I would challenge anybody. My first question to anybody that says, well, they spent this on private land, or they only care about the prairie pothole reason. I get so tired of hearing that, because I'm like, dude, other than your wood ducks and a handful of other birds, where are the majority of these ducks coming from? And the thing about Ducks Unlimited that a lot of people forget is, Delta Waterfowl claims to be the duck hunters organization. And I have nothing wrong with that. Ducks Unlimited is a wetland conservation organization. They're not necessarily a duck hunters organization. Now, it benefits ducks. It all goes hand in hand. And they've conserved helped conserve over 19 million acres. What other group has done that? So what I think people forget is the world's a lot bigger than your backyard. So if my little wood duck hole swamp back here that I'm talking about, stops having wood ducks in it, and this is my little closed basket, my little world, is Ducks Unlimited to blame for that? I mean, think about if people would just take 2 seconds and think about how silly that sounds, then it's just like, guys, they're not the enemy. We're all trying to work together. And man, which leads me to another thing. The duck hunting world is a lot smaller than what people think it is. And we are a minority. We really are when it comes to, there's a lot of people in this country that would love to see hunting stopped. There's a lot of people in this country that would love to see all these public lands where you can't hunt on them. And why are we fighting with an organization that is trying to conserve wetlands to put more ducks in the air instead of fighting the fight against these people that want to see us where we can't hunt at all? Like, it literally makes no sense to me. Like, yes, is there mismanagement at DU? I don't know. I don't work for them, but I think you could, like you said it earlier, you could pick apart any organization. I'm not perfect. You could pick me apart. I'm sure you're not. Everybody's not. I mean, and another thing that people I saw on there, well, such and such at the event, they talk, well, let's back up. All these events are ran by volunteers. Okay. So you have you have Ducks Unlimited employees, and then they have a much larger volunteer sector than they do actually paid employees. So when you're working with volunteers, you can't really you don't have your finger on as much stuff as you do. And I think as a whole, most of these volunteers mean well. Is there a bad apple? Sure, there's a bad apple in anything.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean the whole organization is bad because a volunteer said something you didn't like or misused chapter money. That's another thing I saw. Well, such and such, they used their power at DU to do this. And when you really start digging, it's a volunteer that did it. Allegedly did it. There's no proof that allegedly did it. And I'm like, how can you blame a company for or an organization for something that a volunteer did? Like, it wears me out, man, if you can't tell. It literally wears me out. And then when I posted that, and I knew I was going to get a little bit of feedback, but I did not think that people would come out the woodworks, like with the name calling and the this and then that, all because I defended Ducks Unlimited. It blows my mind. And I think people lose sight of the fact that, it's a privilege that we get to hunt these birds. And while I believe it should be a right, and in some states a right to hunt is a thing, but it's a privilege we get to hunt these birds, and don't think that it can't be taken away while we're sitting here arguing amongst ourselves instead of paying attention to what we really need to be paying attention to.
Yeah. Amen. I know, like, that was beautiful. You said it better than I could have said it. So right, as I'm thinking about this, right, and you have all these comments, all this feedback, all this criticism of you for defending DU, and I mean, I could get on and defend any of the other organizations we've mentioned. I'm sure we get the same feedback. Is it like, why though? Is it misinformation? Is it lack of education? Is it us? Is it our responsibility to educate ourselves? Like, how do we close this gap here?
Man, that's a $1 million question. Man, I really, it's hard for me to answer that. I have suspicions on certain levels. And I'll speak on this a minute. A lot of people, you talk about, is it lack of education? Some of it may be, but I think a lot of it is more so like egotistical and going along with whatever the cool thing to go along with at the time is what I think. I'm not proud to admit this, but I will say this just so it will kind of combat the uneducated part. I never graduated high school. Okay. So I'm not proud of that at all. I had passing grades, and it just was a stupid decision on my behalf.
I don't.
Go ahead.
I'm going to jump in. I don't think that has nothing to do with like.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Well,
that doesn't mean anything. My buddy in high school was a C student, and he runs a business that does millions of dollars a year.
Right.
Like,
Right.
it's just
So,
it doesn't mean just where you finish in school does not equate to if you're smart or educated. Right?
well, that having common sense, I think, is more important than anything nowadays, and a lot of people lack that. But so, I'm not proud of that fact, but I say that to say that I don't necessarily know that, that uneducated part is what I think happens is you'll get. I think guys get irritated. There are less ducks that are coming south. Okay, I mean, it's hard to argue that fact. Even in my lifetime where I'm at, Georgia's always not been a great waterfowl state, but 20 years ago there was more ducks here than there are now. 15 years ago there was more ducks here than there are now. 10 years ago there, and so on and so forth. Last year was kind of an anomaly. We actually had a pretty decent duck season last year, one of the best we've probably had in 7-8 years. And guess what? We had some weather north of us. Isn't that amazing how that works? We had some weather north of us. It froze up. We had snow here a couple times, which is crazy. Tennessee, Arkansas was in a bad drought. So a lot of those birds that came down through there, not as much places for them to go. All of a sudden we had a better duck season. So it kind of, if you get the right conditions, birds will still move. But in going back to what your original question, I truly believe it's a combination of factors, but I think one of the biggest factors is people are irritated that there's not as many ducks in front of their blind that there used to be, and they need a smoking gun. I truly believe that. And so a lot of these guys in the South used to be Delta supporters. A lot of these guys in the South used to be Ducks Unlimited supporters. And now they're like, well, I've spent all this money with them for the last 20 years, whatever, and there's less ducks than there's ever been. So they're not, but it's not, you can only do so much. They can only do so much. And so I kind of feel like it's the frustration more than anything coming out. And then a lot of these guys in the South have a big bone to pick with the flooded corn deal. I've done 2 podcasts on it, and I got drug over the coals for it, but I had both sides. I had the guy that founded Flyway Federation on, and then I had a guy that used to work for Vanishing Paradise down in Louisiana. Now he works for the Tennessee Wildlife Foundation, I think it is. And he was on the other side of it, like showing the positive. So I had the negative side of it and I had the positive side of it. I tried to stay in the middle on both and play devil's advocate. My opinions came out a little bit more than what I wish they would have, but they did. And I just, I think that the fact that they think that I've heard Ducks Unlimited, all these guys get all the bigwigs in Ducks Unlimited. They just spend money on their buddies' private hunting clubs, and they get to go hunt these places and yada, yada, yada. Some of that may be true. I don't know. I truly don't know. But if you think that the millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that they've spent all goes to flooded corn, you're crazy. I mean, when you drive across this landscape from Georgia to Wisconsin, or from Georgia to Oklahoma, or from Georgia to the West Coast, this country is so vast, and people get so hung up on what they're seeing in their little neck of the woods that they're not seeing the big picture, I think. And the South has exploded in population. We already don't have a lot of great waterfowl habitat, especially in our area. But the waterfowl habitat that we are having is just getting steadily encroached upon by human development. And so I just feel like, why do these birds, you've got food and water to the north, hunting seasons are ending early up north, a lot of times in December or whatnot, but they still have open water. They still have open food. So now they have open water, food they can get to, and no pressure. Why are those birds going to fly an extra 900 miles, 1,000 miles to go where Elmer Fudd's sitting behind every tree? Like, they're not going to do it. I mean, stuff changes. And again, that's totally my opinion, but that's kind of where I'm at on it.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair though, right? It's your opinion is based in logic, right? There's last year in Wisconsin, I can tell you that things froze up. I'm in southern Wisconsin. they froze up before duck season ended.
How about that?
Yeah, right. But that's not always the case. It's not always the case. We might have open water and pick cornfields, right? Like all the way through December. A couple of years ago, it was 50 degrees on Christmas Day.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
That's And so that's, that why, to your point, why would a duck move? Well, they don't have to, right? They don't have to. So, I think it's good. I don't disagree with you at all. Right. And it's the changing nature of the landscape. It has changed a lot over the last 20 years.
Dude, you can go to Google,
not the same.
Right. Go to Google Earth and actually download Google Earth and go back over the history. I think you can go back to like the 90s. Now, of course, the pictures in the 90s kind of suck, but you can go back and just look at the landscape as a whole. I mean, the human population here is just going nuts. And we are very, very good at draining wet areas and farming them now. And people are not paying attention to that. Quick Google search, guys, will show y'all. Like I said, over 80%. If you think about it, that is a huge number, man. 80% of the wetlands, I think it's the historical floodplain wetlands of the Mississippi River Valley are gone. I mean, they've been drained, they've been tiled, they've been levied, they've been laser graded. I mean, everything so they can, now plant. I had a guy on my podcast not that long ago. He grew up hunting a place in Tennessee, and he said, "Oh man, it was the most beautiful buckbrush. It would flood out when the river would get out the banks, and we'd just be covered with ducks. And now it's got a big levee, and the levee is to keep water out, not in. So it's got a big levee around it. It's been laser graded off, and it's planted in soybeans and peanuts every year. So now it's great deer habitat, but there's no ducks there anymore. And if it does rain, there's a pipe there and a ditch system where it dumps it all out, so it's not going to hold water. So people don't want to see that side of things and realize that your carrying capacity is not what it used to be. Your breeding capacity in the prairie pothole region is not what it used to be. If you just look up the numbers, it's just simple math. You can't take away 60 to 80% of habitat and still have 100% of the birds. Like, it's just not, it's just simple math to me.
Yeah. No, right. It makes sense, right? The way you're explaining it makes perfect sense to me. I want to shift because we're closing in on that hour mark here. We're getting close.
Yeah, and we'll go however long you want, man. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, no, we'll keep it. I know, right? We both have young kids, right? We got to be respectful of time with that. So I do want to ask you about, right? We're in the day and age of, right, waterfowl culture. I find it very, very interesting, right? Especially the stuff online is very, very interesting. And then we have creators out there. Like, what is your take on the creators that you see out there? What responsibility do they have? Are they good? Are they bad? Do you have an opinion on it? You don't have to, but
now when you say creators, are we talking like influencers? Is that what we're saying? Or is that kind of what you're talking? So I guess technically, if you want to get technical about it, and I've gotten crap from my buddies for starting this podcast, you and I are an influencer if you really want to get down to it. I hate the term. And I'm with you. But if you put yourself out there like we're doing, technically that's what we are. And I had some buddies tell me that, and I kind of fought with them about it. And then thinking about it, I'm like, I guess they're kind of right, which is kind of sounds cringy, but so I'm going to sidestep this question first to answer this. This will hopefully make you understand. So I've got a 3-year-old little girl. We just talked about having kids. I've got a 3-year-old girl that's about to be 4. All right. If you look at the amount of these, and I'm not trying to pick on them, but it just is what it is. These female influencers nowadays that have to, let's go shoot a buck. They've never hunted before, which is great. They're getting into hunting. I have no qualms with that, whatnot. But, let's go shoot a limit of mallards, and I've never hunted before. And then it's December, but let's unzip this down to our belly button where our boobs are hanging out and have these hanging around our neck. And we know what they're, you've seen the pictures, you've seen it. Same thing with the deer, same thing with all this. And man, I used to not think anything about that. Then I had my little girl, and I'm like, she's going to be introduced to the outdoors, whether or not she takes it up I don't know. Yeah, I'll introduce it to her. I'm not going to force it on her. But if she decides she wants to do this, are those the kind of girls that I really want her looking up to? Like when she gets on social media, is that what I want her to see? So I'm doing it and I think this will answer your question. I'm doing a series on my podcast called The Real Women of Waterfowl. And I did it dedicated to my daughter. And first episode I've already recorded it, will be out in about 2 weeks. And I did it with Madison Grimm. Have you heard of her in Second Chance Flight up there in South Dakota?
No, but that doesn't mean anything.
All right, so she's great, man. She comes from a waterfowl family. Her dad's actually a 3-time duck stamp winner. She's an amazing artist herself. She's a young woman. She just turned 20. She has an organization to where she went and fought to get federal permits to be able to go save eggs from damaged nests due to farming practices. So like when a farmer would go, she lives in the prairie pothole region. So when a farmer would go across, cut his alfalfa in the spring, the birds are nesting in there, the nest gets damaged, that nest is done. So she literally spent 6 months getting a federal permit to be able to go collect these eggs. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because she is an influencer, and that's the kind of influencer we need to be looking at. That's the kind of girl I want to make famous. As far as guys go, I mean, yes, I feel like we all have a responsibility because what's going to happen is, I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming you're in your mid 30s, late 30s.
38.
So you and I are the same. I'm 38 as well. Yeah. So yep. I feel like by the time you get to our age, we still think we're young. But you're starting to get those guys that are 16, 17, 18 years old. And I've even noticed it they start following you, they start sending you messages and all that. And you realize those guys I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal, like saying me, but those guys are looking at podcasters. They're looking at the influencers of the world, if you will. And there's a lot of guys out there's got way more followers than me. Y'all are one of them. And so I'm a nobody in this, but in saying that, we all have a responsibility to try to teach the next generation as best we can, because social media wasn't around when I got started. If it was, I'd have been picked on like crazy the way I told you how I started hunting, but also it could help you. So if these kids are sitting around there listening to these podcasts or watching these influencers, do you really want to see the banner going on back and forth about, well, DU sucks and, the flooded corn this and it's all about the limits with the Z on the end and all this crap that you see all over the place. Yes, the ultimate answer is I do have an opinion, and I think that we need to be a little bit more mindful at what we put out. And saying that, I am very opinionated, as y'all can tell. And, my podcast, I will put out my opinion of it, whether I'm wrong or right. And I'm not saying I'm always right, but I try not to blatantly do anything or come off in a way that I think would lead somebody down the wrong path, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I like the perspective on it, right? I think you are right. We do have a responsibility as a community, as duck hunters, to put out quality content, however you want to define that, right? That's respectful of these animals. Sometimes I think a lot of the content I see sets unrealistic expectations for young kids that are just getting into it, that those 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-olds. And it's like, that's not duck hunting, right? It's just not duck hunting. The crispy videos that are shot by professional videographers, ducks, no, I mean, your first duck hunts suck, right? There's a lot of sucky hunts. You gotta earn it a little bit.
I mean, I had some last year that sucked. I mean, it's just, it's an unrealistic expectation to think you're going to go out and shoot limits every time. And anybody that tells you that they do is lying, or they're not hunting enough. And, when kids watch it, when you watch a TV show, something about social media, and this goes along with hunting, it goes along with anything in your life. Social media is nothing but a highlight reel of somebody's life. It does not show the bad days. It doesn't show the hard work. And I'm not talking about just hunting. I'm just talking about, this is life advice here. If there's any young guys listening to this, or young women listen to this, some people do, but most people don't post the hard work the sucky days in the field, the bad days in the field. You highlight the good days. And I'm no different. We all go out and we all want, when we're successful, I want to share it just like the next guy. I enjoy seeing success. I enjoy sharing success, but it doesn't need to be the expectation, right? You need to appreciate it. You need the bad days so you can appreciate the good days. And I'm a firm believer in that. And I also think that, just keep in mind that social media is literally the highlight reel. That's what it is. If you pick the highlight out of each day, each hunt, that's what it is. And that's like the 15 to 20 minutes of a 24-hour period. Not all of it's like that. And one thing that I do have a very strong opinion on, and you made me think about it, is this trend where people are dancing with dead animals. That needs to stop. I actually did a podcast on that. You see the guys with the turkeys and the rap songs on, and I'm not hating on rap, but the rap songs on, and they got a dead turkey and they're dancing around with it. I saw it with ducks this year, and I'm talking about with grown men with beards that have more gray in them than mine when I have it grown out, dancing back to back with some, whatever catchy song is with a fistful of dead ducks. Like, that is not respecting that animal. I'm all for kill shots. I'm all for all that. But like when you get to where we're dancing around and doing stuff like that, man, we as a society are heading down the wrong path. And I feel like people are doing that for likes and clicks and views. And I know that sounds like pot calling kettle black here when I have a podcast, and podcasts rely on likes, clicks, and views. But if you ever see me dancing around with a dead animal, somebody come to Jordan and slap me.
I would describe it as cringeworthy.
Yes.
It's very cringeworthy. I have a hard time with it. I try not to look at it, right? There's people, we've had Justin from Full Color Waterfowl on. I don't know if you've seen his page on Instagram, but he puts out a lot of content criticizing people for this type of content. So
okay. Yeah. Well,
I just try not to pay attention, because it's a dark hole where you can just get upset, right? And there's enough negativity. I don't need something else to make me feel pissed off throughout the day.
I get it. I get you on that. It's just something I feel pretty passionate about. And I had I saw a young guy, and I don't know why it bugs me. This might just me being nitpicky now, but I can't stand the duck bill down in the barrel pick and just all that stuff. Like, it's just, to me, it's disrespectful of the bird. Let's take a good quality picture of the bird. I'm the picture guy of my group. Everybody's like, don't touch the ducks because it's not going to be right. Make sure Robbie, I'm that guy they always pick on. But I like to preserve that memory. And some people, you call it what you want, but I call it respecting the animal. I want a respectful picture of the animal. If you want to take a picture, and if you don't want pictures, hey, I'm all fine with that too. But like the dancing, the disrespectful disregard for that animal's life or whatnot, especially the older I get, the less tolerance I have of that. You're only going to do that about one time hunting with me, and you'll either quit doing it or we won't be hunting together anymore. That's it. And I like to have fun. I don't want to sound like a stick in the mud, but there's just certain things that I'm just like, all right, guys, I'm not going to be a part of this, and that's one of them.
Yep. We're in agreement on that for sure. All right, let's end with the main piece of this podcast with this question: what gives you optimism? Right, we've talked a lot of negativity. What gives you optimism as you look at duck hunting and the duck hunting community?
Yeah, honestly, I think podcasts and stuff like this, there are still a lot of goods. There are still a lot of good things that happen on social media. I think the bad things get more attention, and that's why they're done, because they get more clicks, likes. But like Madison, man, I'm going to go back to her. Y'all, you really should look her up. And anybody out there, I'm going to do an unshamed plug right here. Look up secondchanceflight.com. I am not affiliated with her. She is a fully 501c3. I think that's what it is. I mean, you can donate to her. She's a nonprofit. You can get a tax write-off from it. They're legit. I'll have a podcast out with her either next week or the week after. So like young girls like her, not just young girls, but young girls and young guys like her that you see that are trying to make a positive impact. I mean, this girl's literally going and getting eggs, spending her own money. Now the donations are starting to come in for her, and it's really neat to see that grow and all the time and effort she's put into it. But man, young people like her give me optimism. They really do. I've got a couple young guys that live right down the road from me here that kind of, it feels cringy kind of saying they look up to me, but they call me and they'll ask me questions like, hey man, what do I need to do this? Or what do you think about this? And run like scenarios by me and all. And those kids are trying to do it the right way. And I can tell by the way, the questions that they ask, the stuff that they see, the stuff that they're doing. So not everybody's on social media dancing with dead animals. Not everybody's on social media complaining about flooded corn and Ducks Unlimited. That stuff just gets more attention. So, that gives me some hope. And the fact that information has never been more readily available than it is right now. Right. Yeah. So that can be a negative, but it can also be a positive. Like I wouldn't know who you are at all if it wasn't for social media, right? You wouldn't know who I am at all. I wouldn't know about some of the places that I hunt. I know some of the people that may live there may hate that, but it kind of goes both ways around. So I kind of feel like with as much information that's out there now, that also gives me some optimism too, that maybe people can self-educate themselves on some of these issues and not just rely on like repeated. It's just like somebody just made up something one day and people just start regurgitating this stuff. But again, a lot of that gets highlighted where a lot of the stuff like the Madisons of the world are out there, brother. They're just not getting highlighted as much. So it is my hope to make people like her famous in the waterfowl world and get more and more well-known, and let's start, pushing people towards that avenue.
Yeah, that's perfect. I will probably reach out to her. I think
she's awesome.
Is super fascinating, and I want to learn more about it. So selfishly, if I want to learn more about it, I'm going to ask that person to come on the podcast.
And she's really good on podcasts too. To only be 20, she is her confidence is infectious. I mean, she cares so much about it. She's been on several. She's been on Elliot Snyder's podcast, North American Waterfowler. She's been on the Big Honker podcast with Jeff Stanfield and Andy, and she's been on mine. I don't know where else she's been, but she's very willing to come on and put herself out there. And that's literally a shameless plug, man. Like y'all look her up, and she literally has the pictures on her website, or excuse me, on her, she has them on her website too. But if you follow her on social media, Second Chance Flight, especially on Instagram, she's real active, and she'll post like, hey, Farmer John ran over these eggs today. And like some of them will be cracked to the point to where you think they're unsavable. And she's figured out ways to put like clear nail polish on them and save them and all this. And then she had some that looked like they were cooked, like done. And then 2 weeks later, blue-winged teal are hatched out of them. And she'll keep them until they're 6 to 8 weeks old. And then she's got a network of wetlands around there, and she'll get them to where they're big enough to let go. And she'll take a brood of, she'll take 15 to 20 at a time, and go let them loose on a wetland. And then the next group, she'll go let them loose on a different wetland. And this is her first full year. And as of 2 weeks ago, when I talked to her, she had over 600 saved this year alone, just herself. And so if we can spread that movement across the prairie, and with this federal permit that she has, she can actually, if she deemed you to be somebody she believes that can do this, she can have somebody work up under her permit in a different part of the prairie. So this thing, she kicked open a door to something that can spread like wildfire, that has real meaningful results for birds coming down your flyway. Because if she saved only 600 birds this year, if half of those birds live and come back and have a nest next year, she really saved a lot more than 600 birds. You see what I'm saying?
100%.
So it's Madison, man. Madison gives me optimism.
Okay, perfect. That's a great way to wrap up the main portion of the podcast. So I will definitely look her up. I will probably try to link Second Chance Flight even in the show notes to make it easy for folks that are listening. The way though that we like to finish podcasts around here, Robbie, is with a
Okay.
round that we call Sky Blast questions.
Okay.
Right? So these are off the cuff type questions. Okay. They are not necessarily hunting related. Some of them probably will be. My job is to ask the questions. Your job is to just answer with the first thing that comes to mind. Think of it like a lightning.
Okay. Gotcha.
You go with that?
Let's go. Yeah, I'll try to make it. I'll make myself answer short. Yeah, let's go.
Okay. All right. So first question, coffee or energy drinks?
Coffee for sure.
Okay. Black or cream and sugar?
Used to be cream and sugar, black now.
Okay. All right. And then what gun are you taking out into the field?
SBE3, 9 times out of 9.
Okay.
Yeah. Everybody says 10. So I 9 times out of 9.
Okay. I'm going to ask this one for Matt because he's not here, because I see you have some taxidermy behind you. What's your favorite piece of taxidermy?
Ooh, so my favorite personal piece, most of my good stuff is inside. I got a lot more behind you, but I'm in my shop right now. So I have a display cabinet. I'll send you a picture of it when we get off of here. And it's an antique pie safe is what it is, from an old general store. I drove like 4 hours away from the house to get it. So it's a glass case, and I've got all my main prized possessions in there. And I'd say, man, it'd be hard to pick just one, but I've got a Eurasian widgeon in there that is just a stud and turned out to be a beautiful mount. And then I have a brewer's duck. I have a mallard gadwall hybrid that I shot like 3 years ago that's in there. So those are probably, if I had to pick one, I would pick those two.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Please send the picture.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture when we get off the podcast. I'll send it to you.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Okay. You've traveled a lot, right? You love to travel. You made that clear, right? You stated that for a fact. What is the trip you have upcoming this year, this hunting season? What's planned?
So every year I go to Canada, every single year, until they let us not come anymore. We freelance. So what I mean by let us not come anymore, I think freelance is going to be a thing of the past up there at some point. So Canada, I'll start there. I go to Utah every year. I've got friends out there. And I just love that environment out there. And so that'd be September, October, and then December. And then in January, I always take a trip out west, but I don't know where I'll end up. I typically, at this point in time, I kind of watch the weather, talk to friends, see where we need to be, and then I'll make a call at game time, if that makes sense, kind of depending on what the weather's doing. Because the last couple of years, it's been sort of weird out there, and a lot of birds have even kind of held up into Canada that we've learned. So those are the 3 that I have coming up immediate this coming hunting season. My next big out of country trip will be December 2027. I'm going to Scotland to hunt geese. So that's one I've been looking forward to for a while. So but that's December 2027. So not this year.
Wow. Okay. That sounds amazing, by the way. I would just love to visit Scotland, let alone go there to shoot geese. I mean,
well, the good thing is my wife has the travel bug too. And so it's like Scotland for her is like on her bucket list. So, of course, she's like, I want to go to Scotland. I'm over here on the phone like, what can I shoot over there? And so anyway, Aberdeen Wild Wings over in Scotland, shout out to him. I've got some buddies of mine that have hunted with him and had really great hunts. They shoot pink-footed geese and gray lag geese, and they shoot some of the Eurasian duck species in the evenings over there and whatnot. So anyway, I'm going to go hunt with him a few days, and we're going to travel around and look at the country.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Okay, I got just a couple more left for you. Go ahead. First one is, what is your blind snack of choice? What are you taking out to snack out?
Oh boy. Now if we're doing a standard morning hunt, I'm a big breakfast guy. Like I'm the kind of guy that if I don't eat breakfast, you probably don't want to talk to me. So a blind snack for me is more like a full meal. So I'm the guy that's going to show up with like a full on biscuit and like hash browns, and like I'm that fat guy. So there's not really like a snack, so to speak. It's like, everybody else has got like a little, Cliff Bar and a energy drink or whatever, and I'm over here with like a 3-pound sandwich. So that's as I've gotten older, my blood pressure keeps ticking up. I've calmed down on that a lot the last couple of years, but yeah, if I had it my way, brother, we're going full on breakfast. I'm full send at breakfast, 100%.
Okay. What if you're doing an all day hunt? What if you're sitting out there, right, till you get your birds?
So if I'm doing an all day hunt, you can bet there's going to be an overpriced bag of jerky involved. That's always going to be in the blind bag because when you stop at the gas, it's going to cost you $20 for like 4 sticks of jerky. So I've always got that involved, and then there'll be the Cliff Bars will be in there for sure. That's always a go-to. I'm a big orange guy now because, if it rolls around in the bag and gets mud or something on it, you still got to peel her off. So it keeps your fruit there safe. So I'm a big orange guy now. So I would say all day, it's kind of where we've done. I have been known to take a full Domino's pizza out there. That has happened. So I have also been known to have a full pizza delivered, depending on the situation. So I've had a full pizza delivered when I was hunting in Oregon one time. We were sitting out there hunting, and there was a road right behind us, and I was starving, dude. And we were like waiting on the tide, and it's like, man, what are we gonna eat? And I'm like looking around, and I find a pizza place, and I'm like, wonder if they'll deliver. And so like I call them and they're like, well, what's the address? I'm like, bro, I don't know. But it's like, if you come down this road, I'll run up the hill and grab it. And they literally brought us a pizza, and I ran up the hill, went to the road, got the pizza, and went down. So I've literally had pizza delivered in the duck blind. So I guess what I'm getting at is, man, you're not going to go hungry if you go hunting with me. We're going to have food.
That might be the greatest story ever told in this podcast. Oh my goodness.
Well, I've literally done that. Yeah, I've done that. So that's like I said, man, like fat people in the South, we're going to eat, brother.
All right. Okay. Last one here. All right. Okay. I come to Georgia, right? What is the one food that I have to try if I visit Georgia?
Ooh, the one food you have to try, man. There's so many. I'm guessing in Wisconsin, y'all are probably not grit people up there, are you? Y'all are oatmeal people.
Yes.
Have you ever had grits?
I have. Yes, when I've traveled, I've had grits before.
All right, now, let's back up. Were they instant grits, or were these like stone ground homemade grandma's grits?
That I don't know. It's from a restaurant.
Okay, so that was trash. So that, first of all, that's not grits. That's just something somebody passed on as grits. I would say find you an old Southern woman that does some stone ground grits and cooks it with bacon grease, because if you're not cooking grits with bacon grease, then you're not cooking grits. And it's got to have hunk cheese in it that has been grated up and put in there. And I always liked it, since I don't have enough fat in there already, I always like to take the crispy pieces of the bacon, crumble that up, and go ahead and put that in there on top of it too, just for good measure. So I would say grits in the South is one thing. Again, I'm a breakfast guy. We could go on and on about different Southern meals, but you need true homemade grits, not the junk you buy at restaurants, because most of the stuff at restaurants is instant stuff.
Okay, it's fair. I will have to figure out how to make that happen.
I've literally sent my buddy in New Jersey. So I got a buddy I hunt with up there too. And I've sent him like bags of like the stone ground grits and told him how to make them. And he made them and liked them. Cause up there, they have breakfast items that we don't really have down here. That's not really a thing. Like they do the scrapple and the pork roll and that kind of stuff. And down here, that's not really a thing. So that's another little thing. I always find it interesting to eat food from different places.
100%. You and I could probably talk about food for another 60 minutes. I'm guessing.
I guarantee, dude, I'm starving right now. I guarantee you I could, but I'm always hungry. It doesn't matter to me. Like I've lost about 35 pounds, and I know I talk like I weigh like 900 pounds, and I don't, but I easily could. I'm definitely a fat kid at heart, like for sure.
That's probably the greatest send off for a guest on this podcast as well. All right, Robby, before I hit the stop record button here, plug the podcast, right? Plug anything else you want to plug. Like, this is your time. So, I'll link all this stuff in the show notes as well.
Well, first of all, let me thank you for having me on, for sure. The best way to, I feel like, spread a podcast is to be on another guy's podcast that's already got an audience. So if any of y'all want to listen to the Southern Flight podcast and see what I ramble on about, I can be found at Southern Flight Podcast. Most of my all of my podcasts, are on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. If you want the video version, it's YouTube and Spotify. But you can find it all on all three places. I'm on Instagram at Southern_Flight_podcast, I believe it is. And I have a listeners group on Facebook at Southern Flight Podcast, but I typically post a lot on my personal page there for some reason. I don't know why. And I'm Robby Nelson on there, and that's ROBBY, Robby Nelson on there. So yeah, man, y'all give it a listen. If you want to hear some more of me rambling on.
I don't know why they wouldn't have to listen to this one. So, Robby, sincerely, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, hopping on here. I really enjoyed learning about you, right? Enjoyed learning about your travels, your adventures, your philosophies, your outlook on things. And I can confidently say this will not be the last time that I ask you to come on this podcast.
Man, I appreciate it, brother. I'll get you on mine as well, because I haven't had anybody from up your way. I'd like to have you on and talk to you about y'all's hunting up there and kind of what y'all do, just because for us down here, I would say most of my listeners right now are probably along the southern belt down here, and it's growing, but a lot of my listeners in the southern belt. So I kind of feel like a lot of guys down here, we want to know how other people hunt, kind of like you were talking about, you want to know about. So that's just kind of what it's all about. So yeah, I'll hit you up here in the next week or so, and we'll schedule a time, and I'll get you on mine too.
All right. Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother.
Yeah. All right. Take it easy. Everyone else who's listening, thank you so much. Appreciate you. And we'll see you all again very soon.